Alright, well, hello everybody and welcome to my little tutorial on how I create my remixes for this channel. Some people have been asking how I create my remixes, so I thought I would showcase that, exactly how I do it, the starting process, writing out the song, the instrument arrangements, so on and so forth, and then later I'll show how I master the track after it's been finished. So before we look into this and showcase exactly what's going on here, I should talk about what happens during the initial phase of selecting the song. So usually I select a song, Pokemon theme, that I think I can remix and I have an idea for. And after I've done that, I learn how to play the song. So for instance, this is the Weather Trio remix for Groudon, Kyogre, and Rayquaza. So that goes something like this. So on and so forth. You can go away. So that's the basic melody of it, and usually I harmonize it. Here's my butchered version of the harmonization. And that's just the basic harmonization. Usually the harmonization is something I create myself. It's different or not quite the same as the one used in the actual song. Usually the only thing I keep is the melody. So that's a fairly easy melody. There's another part of the song. But sometimes there's a song I need to remix where the melody's kind of hard. It's pretty fast-paced and it's hard to follow, and for that I usually go on YouTube and look up one of these little piano tutorials which showcase how to create or write out the song. So this one's for the Weather Trio. So I would just look at that and play it out and learn how to play it. This is actually wrong, by the way. It's a little bit wrong. But I didn't have to use a MIDI or learn it through some phaser for this one. This one I could actually figure it out myself. But some of the harder ones, like the Cynthia remix, I had to look up some certain notes. But for this one I survived. So after I learned the melody, I figured out a way to construct it. How I will arrange it, and occasionally I base it off of another song that I like. So for instance, this part at the beginning here, we can play it. This is just the choir, some brass, some strings, and the female choirs come in. This little section at the beginning here is somewhat based off of one of the main themes from Disney's Hunchback of Notre Dame. So we listen to this here. And it's a little similar. That's what I initially based it off of, but I added some other things, and the pieces in here are much larger sections than what was used in that Disney song. So that's the beginning part. So that's basically the initial phase, and afterwards I'll start writing it in and write it into here, which is my DAW, which stands for Digital Audio Workstation, which is what I write my music in. Let's try and explain what this does. For those who don't know, you can just basically write notes into this. For instance, this is a little MIDI track here, and this is corresponding to the piano instrument that I use. This is the Giant from Native Instruments. This is the piano I usually use. Okay, and what I can do is I can record in any melody I want, and it'll appear as this. So let's solo this, and as you can see, as the needle goes over the note, it plays. And depending on how hard you hit the note as you record it, that's how hard the note will be played in the actual software. So softly, and then hard. Basic stuff. You can also adjust the velocity in here, so if I crank it up, it'll play louder. If I make it quite low, it'll be softer. Okay, so that's kind of the basics of it. Hopefully it's not too hard to understand. So yeah, let's just hop right in. So I have all my instruments arranged into different folders. We have piano and melodic percussion. I only had one track here, which is just a piano. We have the strings, which I have multiple instruments for. We have high strings, tremolo strings, spiccato strings, legato, and we'll go over those later. We have brass. There we have one woodwind, and so on. We'll go over those as we come across them. So let's start at the very beginning. Let's open up all these. We don't need to open up that one because there's only one track. Okay, so let's start with this beginning piece here. Only 3 tracks. Okay, so this uses a male choir drone, or sounds like a drone. That is not the correct one. It's this one here. It's too high. Okay. Okay, so that's just, this is Mars Man's Choir, which this is the vocal. I can change the vocal and it'll play something else. But I like the sound because it's kind of ambient. And that's basically there to add some bass to the intro. In addition, we have the timpani. Just use the basic timpani roll here. So we solo that. You can see it gets louder and louder. And to make it louder, we use this thing right here, which is the mod wheel, and that adjusts how hard it is played. So as you can see, as the mod wheel goes up, it gets louder, and pretty easy to understand. And you can program that into the actual MIDI track. So it goes up and gets louder, and then when it ends with a bang. So that's pretty simple. And also we have these bells. Not much to say about those. These are bell tower. Okay, so let's move on to the next part, which has a bit more going on. Okay, so one of the most noticeable things in this is the male choir sustains. These are actually marcatos, and I use the men choir from the library Metropolis Arc. I think this was about $500 or so, and they sound like this. Pretty nice. I didn't use the Mars Men's Choir because I actually prefer the sounds of these male choirs, at least for the long notes. It's very nice, and we can bring up the actual MIDI track. And there they are written out in octaves. Okay, so there's the choir, and we also have trombones, French horns, trombones, French horns, and trumpets. And all of these are marcato patches. By the way, marcato, I should actually explain what that is basically a short blast. So that's marcato. Okay, so we also have the French horns, which is the same marcato patch for French horns and our marcato patch for trombones, and they all play the same thing in this intro. They're just set octaves apart from each other, so bringing them up. Actually, the French horns and the trombones are playing the same octave. So there they are soloed. And that just adds a bit more power and presence to it. And we also have a cymbal patch here. It's just a cymbal crash, basic cymbal crash. And finally, we have the strings bass legato. I forgot to mention the French horn, trombone, and trumpet patches, marcato patches, are from Metropolis Arc. So that's good. I like the brass in Metropolis Arc. I tend to, whenever I use brass, I use the patches in that library. We also have strings bass legato, which is from the patch Albion 1 from Spitfire Audio. I like the strings in Spitfire Audio's libraries, and I use their strings low octave for the bass in this intro part. We can play a little bit. And similar to the timpani rolls, this uses the mod wheel to adjust not the volume, but how hard the player is playing the note. See that? Okay, and one more thing. This uses some legato technology where you can hear transitions between the notes. Not sure how well you can hear that. Actually, if we go to the French horns, you can really hear the transition in these. So you can hear the little transition in there, the kind of sweep up to the next note, and that adds a bit of realism to the playing. So yep, that's pretty much that section, and then we move on to the next section. And that's pretty much the exact same as the last part, only the notes are a bit higher. I think they're a perfect fourth higher. Yeah, perfect fourth higher. And we have some additional instruments added. We have the female choir marcato to go along with the male choir. That should be marcato, not sustain. Yeah. And for the female choir, I used Venus Women's Choir, which is the equivalent of Mars Choir. I just changed the vocal there. There we go. And this is the phrase builder. You can program in different phrases. I just use the ah and a patches, because in a piece this large, you're not going to be hearing, you're not going to be able to hear the individual syllables, so no point in having them. What else do we have? Just piano, that's playing bass notes. We have tremolo, and let's listen to those tremolos. Now this is a bit that wasn't in the original song. For these I used Albion 1. I always use Albion 1 for strings. And this is the tremolo patch. That uses the mod wheel again. And from Spitfire. This cost me about $320, in case you're wondering. It was a bit cheaper than Metropolis Art, but it is a bit more limited in its instruments. I actually got this for 30% off with an educational discount, so that's pretty good. So those are the tremolos. And what else? I think that's it. Oh no, wait, nope, forgot this. This is an organ. You can barely hear this, which makes it kind of redundant, but you can barely hear that in the piece, but it's still there. You can hear it a little bit. It just adds to the presence. And now we can finally get into this piece, which has quite a bit of percussion in it, as you can see down here. Let's go ahead and play that. Okay, so starting off with percussion. Most of my percussion is from, bring it up, Hans Zimmer Percussion London. I had high taikos used, which are these here, regular taiko assembly, which is from the same library, and a bass drum, which is also from the same library. The taikos and the high taikos are playing the exact same notes throughout the entire piece, exactly the same. Well, not the exact same notes, the exact same hits, I should say, because they're not pitched. Bass drum, that's basically just that. How about we solo the percussion so you can hear it? Additionally, I have these high little hits here, and even though they sound quiet, if I unmute everything, you can probably still hear them. Because they're so high on the frequency spectrum that they kind of overcome everything else. So there's also the cymbals, and that's pretty much it for the percussion. We have trumpet spiccatos, but I'll talk about those in the next section. Is there strings used in this beginning part? No, okay. Well, yeah, one last thing. That little wail you hear, let's just solo that. That is a Renaissance pipe. And I programmed the volume slider to adjust the volume because this doesn't have an actual yeah, it doesn't have that. I don't know what it's called, but you can't adjust how hard the player plays, so you just have to adjust the volume. And if I can... and that's as high as I can go. Okay, so that's the Renaissance pipes. And to make that sound, I just, again, adjusted the modulation, goes up, then it goes down, but I also adjusted the pitch. As you can see there, a bit of pitch adjustment. It's me messing with the pitch knob there. And that's it for this beginning part. Now we can get into some good stuff. This next part. You know what I should be doing? Let's actually look at it in this view. We can actually see the MIDI tracks. That's kind of stupid. Okay, there we go. That's much better. Okay, so percussion's exactly the same. I think I just made it slightly louder by increasing the velocity. We also have strings high legato, which was one of my favorite patches. Again, it's Albion 1. Let's play a little bit. Just a little bit there, and let's solo it. We can hear the actual instrument. And the woodwinds are playing the same thing. Let's solo the brass. We'll look at what they did. And these are just brass spiccato notes, trumpet spiccato. A spiccato is just a really quick blast, like that. Just like that. I also have those for French horns and trombones, which are played in octaves, just to add a bigger sound. We have the horns fluttered. Which is adjusted with the mod wheel. And I believe that's it for that section. French, yep, that's about it. And then we move on to my favorite part of the song. Okay, so first off, we have timpani hits, which were not in the previous part. And unlike other percussion instruments, these can actually be pitched, so they play notes. Just like that. We also have the female choir sustains. They sound like this. They don't sound very good on their own, but with all the other instruments, they sound fine. And they add a bit more of an angelic, ethereal feel to this section. We have more strings, legato. We have some trumpet spiccato, but we also have French horn legato. And let's listen to those on their own. And with the French horn legato, you need to remember to leave place for the player to breathe, which adds the realism, because even though a computer has infinite lung capacity, an actual player does not. So it's kind of awkward when it's just one continuous phrase without any breathing room. Unlike string players, people who use wind instruments need to breathe. And I don't think I showed this. Let's listen to this again with, where am I? As you can see, this is a lot more blocky than compared to this previous part. So, that's that section. And now we have this next section. Strings, and then the car comes in. This is in a much better view. So that's that. For this, we had low brass, which are just playing this. It was an octave too high there. French horns, which are playing the same thing. We have strings bass Mercado. This is not from Albion. This is from, not Albion, Spitfire Audio. Well, technically it is Albion, that's the name of the library. But these are from Metropolis Art. And they have a bit of a, more of a presence than the ones in Spitfire's library. So yeah, the brass, low brass, French horns, and those Mercado strings are playing the exact same thing. And then we have the strings that's just playing this. It just goes up and up and up. And then the female choir joins in playing the same thing in the last 4 bars or measures, and the bells are also playing the same thing as the Mercado strings. And that's it for that. This is kind of just the same thing here. And then it repeats. And there's not much difference between this part and what's shown before. I added female choirs to the actual beginning of this part, and I think I added some percussion. Maybe not. Oh, I added some cymbals here in this part, which weren't in the previous part. And then that just goes on. It's more or less the same thing until we get to this ending. And that's it. This was actually originally going to be the beginning of the song, but I moved it to the end because it didn't really work as an intro to the song. This is somewhat based off of, if you've ever seen Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey, there's this song, which is this really long thing right here, that plays during that movie, which sounds like this. And this part was based somewhat on that with those choirs. And that's about it. I don't think there's anything new to showcase here. Again, pianos, strings. Oh, right here, synths. I didn't actually use really any synths at all in this song, except for right here at the beginning, the end of the song. I used some effects. These are just little ambient effects. These are from, if it'll load, come on, there we go. Bowed piano from the library Gravity, which is a big synth library. It's got big cinematic hits, pads, risers, stings, and this is a sting right here. This is a great library. Pretty much all my synth elements come from this library. This was, I think, $450. I also have these two Gravity packs, which are $100 each. These are really good too. This has like vocal samples, vocal synths, and this is guitar synths, and they're pretty good. So that's Gravity there. Fortunately, I didn't get to showcase it much in this song because, well, I only used 2 samples of it, and it was at the very end of the song. So that's pretty much the song. Going through, I did forget, there were some string spiccatos here. Let's listen to those. Again, spiccato is a short blast. And those are just to add some harmonics to the song. Again, that's Albion 1. Very nice. And there's all these other patches. Pizzicato, longs, tremolo, and so on. Let's actually put that back to what it belongs on. Okay. So there's the actual song written out. Basically just how it's arranged. I can't go into like actual music theory and how everything works and whatnot, like how actual music works. Let's put that away, okay. But that's just a basic arrangement of the basic arrangement of the song. Here's the whole thing showcased. There it is there. Blah, blah, blah. Actually, we can shrink it down. Look at that. There it is there. Okay. So I'm going to exit out of this, and then I'm going to go... Well, actually, once I'm done with the song, I would go up to File, Bounce, Project or Section, or I would just hit Command Bounce. And I would export it as a WAV file. I would turn the normalize on, click the audio tail, and then bounce, and that'll export the whole thing to wherever I want it to go. And I'm going to cut ahead to another project. I'm going to open up another project, which is my mastering project. So I'll be right back. But real quick, I forgot something, which is pretty important, which is reverb. I use Arts Acoustic Reverb, and for those who don't know what reverb is basically it puts the instrument in a room. So for the choirs here, I used a church reverb to kind of match along with the Hunchback of Notre Dame theme. Let's listen to... Let's zoom in a bit. Let's listen to this with and without the reverb. This is reverb and off. So yeah, you can probably hear the difference there and see why it's so important. This song would sound very different and probably not very good without the reverb. I might have used a bit too much reverb on this. It's a little bit too wet, but think it's fine. So that's all I wanted to talk about, the reverb. Now we can go into the mastering. Okay, so let's move on to the actual mastering process. We have the actual track here, and I have all my plugins over here, which is used to improve the track. We're going to make it louder, more crisper, and add more clarity to it. Now, I'm not a professional at this. This is just what I do, and I think it works, so I'll show you exactly what I do. Let's turn all these off and listen to it. Actually, I'm going to keep this on because I don't want there to be a volume difference between these two plays. And we're going to listen to it without the audio, or without the plugins, excuse me. That's it without the plugins, and if we add them, you'll notice a difference. Not a huge difference, but noticeable enough, and it definitely does add more crispness and clarity. So let's go through these. Well, let's actually start with the first one. We've got a gain here. This is just to make the track quieter, so we have more room to work with. Because if this goes above zero, and it's in the red, and we export it, you're going to hear clipping and distortion in the track. And actually, if you go back to some of my very first remixes on this channel, especially the Lavender Town remix, you can actually hear some of the distortion from it clipping, because I didn't know what I was doing back then. But that's the gain. We also have a compressor, which compresses the track. Basically just makes it more even. It kind of cuts out these high points here a little bit. That's the compressor, and we also have isotope ozone 5. We have an equalizer. I basically raised the high end a bit, cut out frequencies here at about 3000, the 3000 area, because I don't really like that sound much, and I added a bit of high end to it. We also have the harmonic exciter. If I turn this off, you probably won't even notice anything when playing it. But this basically adds a bit of distortion to the mix, to the high end up here. This is low end down here, we have the high end here. And distortion doesn't sound very good, but it can actually be a good thing if it's used modestly. Dynamics, this is just another compressor, but it's a multi-band compressor for the harmonic spectrum. Just a little bit of this was used, and that's all I used for the ozone, and the rest of these are just waves plugin. I have a Kramer tape. I used a preset, mastering clean and open, and then I turned off the noise. That was the only thing I did. This basically adds a bit more crispness. Here we are. This adds more high end. This is the Rad 3751. 2 settings, pop and classic. I use classic, obviously. And I add a bit of high end here. No low end, and that's about it. I changed it to 51 instead of 37. And I think that's it. We have a Kramer tape. Excuse me, a vintage oral exciter, which is another exciter. This is definitely not a Kramer tape. And this is one of the factory presets. There it is. Beefy mix. And, well, it makes the mix beefier. And finally, we have crisp mastering. This is the same exciter, but it just adds a bit of crispness to this song. So let's turn this on and off and we can listen to it. Again, very subtle, but all of it adds up, and eventually it becomes more noticeable. And obviously there's more to it than just like adding the presets. I usually adjust the knobs, because if you don't, you can end up with something like this or like that, which adds nothing. Okay, so that's that. And finally, there's a channel EQ here, but this doesn't do anything. It's basically what the song looks like. And finally, we have our limiter. This has one purpose, and it's to make the song louder. That's it without anything on, and as we bring it down, we make it louder. But if you bring it down too far, it becomes very distorted. So we want a nice middle. I think this was on 13.5, 13.6. That won't make a difference. And that's basically what that does. Makes it louder. And you want as little red popping up as possible. And you certainly don't want it lingering in the red. That would be bad. So that's that. I think that's all I have for now. After that, I bounce it, open up my video editor, find a picture, and edit the video, upload it, and then I'm done. That's all I got. Yeah. Okay, I'm done, right? Go away. Goodbye.